Hello everyone and welcome back to another video where today I want to talk about something a little bit different. So recently the season 13 collection box set has been released, and normally these are times of pretty much universal celebration, as a new collection box set means, updated versions of classic series, new special effects, a ton of bonus features. They're very good. I own a few of them myself, and Season 13 is, without a doubt, one of the most critically acclaimed seasons of the classic series. Of course, for example, being the home of stories like Pyramids of Mars and Terror of the Zygons. However, what should have been a universally praised release has become somewhat more contentious, as the result of people noticing AI filters placed across the episodes. Now, on one level, technology being used to enhance classic Doctor Who has been a case for a very long time. We've seen this with digital recolorizations recently in the Daleks and War Games in Colour, but this is kind of, at least from what I'm seeing, the first time that a blatant AI filter is being used over the top of scenes. And people are basically saying that it looks incredibly distracting and off-putting. You can see here I'm going to be showing clips from a video compiled by Pip Madley, link will be in the description to that basically shows some of the things going on and being removed by the AI process. And it can be small things, such as, like, for example, nails being basically manicured to look better, or in some instances, things like entire fingers being removed, and digital teeth straightening for Tom Baker, and teeth whitening. And I just wanted to kind of open up this conversation because I think it's very interesting. I myself think that the option should be allowed for people to buy these sets without this filter as an option, because a lot of people are finding it incredibly distracting, and in some instances, it is actively harming the quality of these releases. In the recent upload of Terror of the Zygons, which was also posted to the YouTube channel, you can see in this image posted by Matthew Purchase, the sign for the public call box, TARDIS public call box sign, has the wrong wording. Like, it has, instead of the word use, it's the word UC. And it's worth mentioning that this isn't like some small fan project either. These box sets get sold for over 50 quid a pop. And I will name one name here that I want to talk about. I've seen a few of the people who work on these collection box sets kind of hit out at fans for complaining about this. I'm going to mention one name in particular, which is Richard Bignell, and the reason I mention him is because Matthew Purchase, once again, I'm mentioning him again, said that he would prefer if this kind of digital upscaling was not used in this capacity, or at least not to as extreme of a capacity as it clearly is, to alter the images. And like Richard Bignell said, basically, you don't know what you're talking about. And I think that that's kind of rude to talk to fans like that who've paid nearly 60 quid for a box set. Again, if this was a fan project that was being done simply out of, like, kind of a interest to see what these would look like, then I don't think people would be nearly as annoyed. But it's the fact that these are official releases. This is the release of Season 13, which, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the most celebrated series of Classic Who, and it's just unfortunate to see that it's been smeared over by this sort of AI effect that does cheapen the image somewhat, and as I said, in more extreme cases, cause some very weird results. The thing about AI is, it's not just a quick fix for everything. You can't just slap an AI filter on something and expect that it look, fantastic, because it won't. Obviously, there is a place for digital upscaling, but it has to be done with great care and to not kind of impede on the original work. And I think doing things like straightening out Tom Baker's teeth, or, editing out, like, hands, or making faces look completely unrecognisable is not in the brief of preserving and enhancing these episodes. So I thought I would mention it here because, yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion to have, and it's not one that I thought I would be having, but I think it's worth saying because I don't want to downplay the fact that I'm sure that a lot of people put in a lot of work to the upgraded special effects and the upgraded kind of upscaling in other ways and enhancing of audio tracks and, everything like that. I'm not doubting that there's a ton of work that goes into making these collection box sets look as good as they can. However, when you slap an AI filter over something, a lot of that work does kind of unfortunately get kind of drowned out by this overwhelming AI filter. I want to know specifically from you guys if you own the Season 13 box set, and if you do, what's your thoughts on it? Does it distract you, or, you know, is it not as bad as it looks from images that I'm seeing? Because from images that I'm seeing, it looks incredibly distracting and off-putting. AI tends to do this thing with faces in particular, where it'll give kind of the face a kind of plastic sheen to it, and obviously it can't always interpret like film grain, for example, which will create some weird smoothing effects as well. Again, I think that in certain instances, you know, things like AI can be used to enhance stuff, but when you just slap a filter over it, it's obviously going to lead to some dodgy results. And I think especially when it comes to digitally altering the appearances of some actors, specifically, you know, some of these actors who are in these episodes, you know, have now passed away and cannot give permission for their appearances to be altered in this way. That does create a bit of a moral dilemma for me and creates this kind of sense of uncanny valley. I want to say quickly as well that I don't mean any ill will to anyone who works on these. As I said before, I'm sure that a ton of effort goes into things that, like, I can't even comprehend. And I'm not going to pretend to be, you know, an expert when it comes to this subject, but I do know what AI tools are like. I've seen them used in like editing softwares and stuff, and I know when a filter being put over the top of something can be very distracting, and from what I'm seeing, these do look incredibly distracting. Obviously, I mentioned Richard Bignell there, but I don't have any ill will towards him or anyone else in particular. The only reason I mention him is because he is the one who kind of said, look, you know, you don't know what you're talking about. And I do think that if a fan pays that level of money, I don't think it should be down to the people who worked on it to kind of shut down any critique in that way, if that makes any sense. Just personally for me, I think there should be a level of understanding that if you're going to put something out there for profit, you know, albeit it's not just him, it's a whole, you know, group of people, then you should expect a level of scrutiny to be applied to that. I mean, it's even true for free content. I put these videos out for free, and I know that I get, you know, levels of scrutiny. But especially so if you're going to be charging nearly 60 quid for something. People have every right to go, hang on, this doesn't look right. And I think that to shut that down immediately and just say, you don't know what you're talking about, is incredibly reductive. And I do hope that they kind of change course on that, because I don't think it's a healthy mindset to have. And I think that criticisms like this should be taken on board when it's coming from, you know, a genuine place. But let me know what you guys think. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on this. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.